Hi, I'm Jan Doyle. Welcome to Classroom Connections. I'm really excited about tonight's guest. She's been here before. She's absolutely a phenomenal woman, and she's absolutely amazing at her job. Dr. Marcy Guddemi, welcome back to Classroom Connections.
Well, thank you for having me.
You know, you're the executive director of Gesell Institute, which is a internationally known facility. And you're here, we're having you here for something very special that's going to be happening at Gesell. But why don't you give the audience a little reminder of what the Gesell Institute is all about?
Yeah, the Gesell Institute has been around for 60 years. We're actually celebrating our 60th anniversary, which I think we're going to get to a little bit later on in the program. But Gesell Institute has been promoting the right of a child to well development. And what that means is that every child should have the opportunity to develop and grow and learn to the best of their capability. And so we have resources and materials for parents to use with children, with teachers. We have an assessment that is really good that shows where a child is on that path of development. One of the things that Dr. Gesell found, and what he's most famous for, is the fact that he was the first to discover that as children grow, they go through these stages of development.
Yes, yes.
And every child goes through these same stages, but children go through them at varying rates. And what I'm most interested in is how this applies to educational applications, because let me give you my two favorite examples. When children learn to walk, the average age is about 12 months, and we realize some kids start at 9 months, some kids don't start till 15 or 16 months, but all of that is completely normal. And that's what Dr. Gesell was saying, that all children will learn how to walk, go through that stage, but they learn at their own pace and their own time period. And what we know for sure is that early walkers are not better walkers. So my second example...
You know, I just want to stop for a minute. That's an example that anybody can grab onto and make a connection to, because that's something that no one says, oh, you're not a good walker.
Exactly, exactly.
What's the matter with you? Why aren't you walking?
Or within a family, I don't know how many times, you know, a parent has told me, well, you know, Susie started walking at 10 months, but Johnny didn't start till 14. You know, so you see, even though the same family, the same genetics, the same environment,
that is
you know,
amazing.
different children are on their own path of development. So my second example is more classroom oriented, because what the research shows us is that the average age that children learn to read is 6.5 years. Now that means some children learn before 6.5, many children after 6.5. And what's happening right now in our country is that we feel like we've got to teach children to read sooner and sooner, and we think sooner is better. There was just an article in something I was reading just recently that in Finland and Sweden, they don't even start teaching reading till age 7. In fact, the article made the point that parents make it a conscientious effort not to teach any reading before age 7. But in our country, sooner is better. And, you know, I live in New Haven, and I hate to admit that in the New Haven curriculum, they expect all kindergarten children to read by the end of kindergarten. And it's just not going to happen, because another thing about Connecticut is that our cutoff date for kindergarten entrance is January 1st. So that means we have 4-year-olds starting kindergarten, and we're expecting them to be readers by the end of kindergarten. And again, what the research shows, this is just so amazing, Jan, what the research shows is at the end of 3rd grade, early readers have no advantage over later readers. In fact, some later readers are our Rhodes Scholars, our, you know, cum laude, you know, it is amazing. And people just, again, think earlier is better, and it's not.
This is so interesting because earlier today, I just taped a program with 2 teachers, and we were talking about what parents can do preschool. We were talking about environmental print and letters and blending letters.
Oh, that's good, wonderful.
And so that part is okay. So, but you just are saying we can we don't expect the children to sit down and pick up a book and start reading the book.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's plenty of wonderful things that you do for children at each age, as they're growing and developing. And that environmental print may click with a child at age 4, or it might not click with the child until age 6. But again, it's okay, but you don't deny the child. You're always giving them this rich environment, but just don't expect every child to do it at the same time. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that's interesting. It's a wonderful segue into the conference.
Exactly.
And it's also, as a classroom teacher, and we're mandated to follow certain things, but this conference is going to attract people who are the decision makers.
Right.
So why don't you have a handout here. You're having a conference, lead conference in October. What are the exact dates on this?
October 14th and 15th this year, 2010.
2010. And what is this all about?
Well, LEAD, L-E-A-D, learn, educate, advocate, do. What we want to do is to bring together, as you said, decision makers, policy makers, leaders, and really focus on leading quality programs in early childhood. What I see happening, again, across the country, certainly in New Haven, but across the country, is that leaders don't know, if I can say it like this, beans about early childhood. Everyone thinks, well, if I was a parent, I know everything I need to know about children.
It never got the attention.
No.
It just never did. People just never, when they thought, well, kindergarten, you just play in kindergarten.
Yeah, and kindergarten until a few years ago was not even required in every state, and in fact there's still some states where the schools are mandatory to provide it, but the law says children don't have to go. So it's not even compulsory, is the word I was looking for, in every state today. And of course, there's the big controversy about half-day versus full-day kindergarten, and not wanting to encroach on what are parents' responsibilities. But again, what the research shows is that children in quality early childhood programs benefit in all kinds of ways. I mean, it's just amazing. And plus, society benefits because the children have less grade retention. They're less often in remedial classes, less juvenile delinquency, higher graduation rate, more people gainfully employed after high school and or college. And get this, the last one, less incarceration. Less people going to prison of the group of children that went to a quality preschool. Now here's my whole mission right now with Gesell. People are thinking any early childhood is good, but it's quality early childhood.
And what defines a quality experience? What, in your opinion?
Well, there's lots of things to consider. So I'll just throw out a few things that come to my mind right away. And again, all of this is research based. It's not Marcy Guddemi saying, it's not Gesell Institute saying. It's been thoroughly researched of what makes a good quality early childhood program.
That's an important distinction because many times for years in education, something would work for one small little segment and it wasn't vetted, it wasn't thought out, it wasn't multiplied in different areas.
Right.
And now what they're doing is they're doing that kind of thing so they can replicate it.
Yes.
So quality
Okay,
research.
quality. Number one, I would say that the whole child needs to be addressed. And what that means is cognitive, of course, social, emotional, and physical development. All of those need to be developed. Social emotional is probably the area that gets overlooked the most, and that's probably one of the most important in early childhood. Children need to feel good about themselves. They need to feel like they can learn and they want to learn. And what's happening in our very academic kindergartens, where we're saying every child must read, the child says, I can't read. What's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I'm a failure already. And believe me, that's exactly what's going through their minds, and we're turning these very young children off to learning, in kindergarten.
Yes, I've heard children say, I'm not any good at reading. I'm not any good at math. And these are little pipsqueaks that are walking down the hall.
Yes, they learn this very early on, and that's all part of this social emotional development. The second point that I want to say about what makes a quality early childhood program is instructional strategy. And again, what we know about studying how children develop and what stages of development they go through, the child from age 3 to grade 3 learns in a very different way than older children. These children they're pre-logical, they're pre-abstract. So things that make complete sense to us and completely logical makes no sense to them whatsoever. And so again, we've got to provide instructional strategies that meets the way these children learn. So again, I want to go back to the conference. That's part of what we're going to be addressing at the conference. What are those successful models that do exist? And believe me, there's plenty of good schools across the country that are doing it right. But what are those quality schools doing that can be a model for other places? In fact, I know we're going to get to NurtureShock in a few minutes, but one of the things that they mention in the book is a new curriculum called Tools of the Mind curriculum, and it's a play-based kindergarten curriculum for learning how to read. And what's wonderful about it, and again, this whole notion of learning through play and learning by doing and learning by being active is part of what I'm talking about with children needing different types of activities at this age. But what they find, and what I love, and that's the reason I put this on the flyer, is that those children in play-based kindergartens actually had higher test scores than the classes where they're drilling the kids the old-fashioned way, through the pencil into the mind.
Yes.
And that does not work with our young learners.
Let's take a minute and talk about NurtureShock. Now, what is the significance of, why do we both have this book?
Well, we both have this book because we know it's one of the most important books out there today. It's relatively new, published in 2009, and the authors are two actually journalists that did a lot of research to find out what's going on, and they're kind of 30-ish, and they went through NurtureShock, which is the shock that happens when all of a sudden you realize you have a baby and you don't know what to do with it.
Right. I just want to make sure that people understand that they're going to be at the conference.
Yes.
And so I picked up the book because first of all, I like to have my books autographed, but I thought it would behoove me to read the book, and I was shocked to find out things that you have a feeling for, but they just put it to you in new ways. And one paragraph, one chapter I loved is Why Children Lie, and that's really set me thinking. But another one is what parents praise too much. They get praised for, just waking up in the morning. Oh, what a good little boy. And we're not doing things correctly for the kids.
Yeah, my husband told me a story one time. He's a preschool teacher, and one of his children came in, hung up her book bag, washed her hands, sat down, and the mother said, "Doesn't she get a sticker?" I mean, a sticker for doing what you're supposed to be doing, but that is the phenomena that's happening out there.
Yes, well, why not?
Well, what we're finding, and again, I hate to even kind of say it like this, but some of the things that we have valued through the years, like learning patience and learning curiosity and tenacity, and some of these, if you will, kind of softer skills are actually more important than the academic ones, and we're forgetting that. And it's through not praising too much that children learn persistence. In fact, there's a great research study that they mention in the one chapter where the two sets of children are each given the same little test, okay? And they both, scored equally well on the test. And with the one group, they praised them up and down each side side over da-da-da. The other group, they said, now you did a good job, but I think you can do a little bit better, and let's look at where you had some problems, and let's think about what we're going to do next time. So then a little time elapsed, and they gave both groups another test, but it's a little bit harder. The group that had not been praised tried harder and wanted to do better, and actually did do better than the other group, because the other group was afraid to fail, you know, because they always get it right. So again, there's little things like that that backfire. And actually, when people ask me about the book, I like to say it's the myths of early childhood, or not early